Let's see what the glorious Quran talks about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 3, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. Marry women of your choice in 2s, 3s or 4s, but if you fear that you cannot do justice, then marry only one. So only if you can do justice, you can marry more than one wife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 129, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ فَلَا تَمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَةِ. And you will never be, and you cannot do justice between your wives, but do not turn away from them altogether. Many people think that it is compulsory in Islam to have more than one wife, whereas it is mubah, it is optional in Islam to have more than one wife. But if you have more than one wife, and if you cannot do justice, then you are in a problem. So only if you can do justice, you can marry more than one wife. Let's analyze what are the logical and scientific reasons why Islam allows a man to have more than one wife. If we analyze, male and female are born in an equal proportion. But if you ask any medical doctor, he will tell you that the female sex, it is a stronger sex. It has got more immunity than the male sex. So, in the pediatric age itself, there are more deaths in males as compared to females. As life goes on, there are deaths due to drug addiction, due to alcoholism, due to wars that take place. In all these cases, there are more men who die as compared to the women. And the statistics tell us that the average lifespan of a woman is more than the average lifespan of a man. Today in the world, there are more females as compared to males, except in some third world countries like India, because female feticide and female infanticide is practiced. And there was a BBC report on the program assignment. The topic was, "Let her die." A British reporter by the name of Emily Beckenham states that every day in India, more than 3,000 fetuses are being aborted after they identify that they're females. And if you multiply this by 365, more than 1 million fetuses are being aborted every year after they identify that they're females. And according to Tamil Nadu Government Hospital, out of 10 females born alive, 4 are put to death. And if this female infanticide stops in India and in the third world countries, in a couple of decades, the female population, it will outnumber the male population. Today in the world, there are more females as compared to males. In New York alone, there are 1 million females more than males. In USA alone, there are 7.8 million females more than males. In UK alone, there are 4 million females more than males. In Germany alone, there are 5 million females more than males. In Russia alone, there are 9 million females more than males. And God alone knows how many million females are more than males in the complete world. If I agree with the non-Muslim that every man should marry only one wife, and suppose if your sister, or suppose if my sister, happens to live in USA, and the market is saturated, every man has found a life partner. And suppose if your sister, or suppose if my sister, happens to be one of those 7.8 million females who have not found life partners, the only two options she has is marry a man who already has a wife, or to become public property. Someone might say, public property, such a harsh word. It's the most sophisticated word I can use. Having mistresses in America is very common. The American statistics tell us that an average American, he has 8 different sexual partners before he settles down with one. Some may have 10, some may have 20, But before an average American he gets married, he has 8 different sexual partners before he settles down with one. How many he has after he married, the statistics doesn't tell that. Having mistresses in America is very common. 10, 20, no problem. But having more than one wife does not go down their throat. You know, when a woman, she is a second wife, she has protection, she gets honor, she lives a peaceful life. Whereas when a woman, she is a mistress, she lives a life of disgrace, she has no protection. Therefore in Islam, a man is allowed to have more than one wife in order to protect the woman. And under normal circumstances, no woman would like to share a husband. But a good Muslimah who knows the situation of the world would not mind to share a husband in order to protect her sister from becoming public property. And if you ask any modest woman, what would she choose? To marry a man who already has a wife, or to become public property? Any modest woman, she would choose the first one. The 6th most common question is that if Islam allows a man to have more than one wife, why does Islam prohibit a woman from having more than one husband? As far as this is concerned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 24, وَالْمُحْسَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Do not marry a woman who already is married. The Quran says that you cannot marry a woman who already is married. Before I discuss the real reason, imagine there is a scarcity of finding husbands, and if a woman has more than one husband, this will increase the scarcity, this will multiply the problem. Let's analyze what are the logical and scientific reasons why Islam prohibits a woman from having more than one husband. If we analyze, when a man has more than one wife and the child who's born out of the wedlock, you can easily identify the mother as well as the father. Whereas when a woman has more than one husband and the child who's born out of the wedlock, you will be able to identify the mother, but you will not be able to identify the father. And today, the psychologists, they tell us that it is very important for the child identification of the parents, especially the father. And if you happen to admit your child in school, and if they ask you, what is your father's name, you may have to give 2 names. And today medical science tells us that man is more polygamous in nature as compared to the woman. And there are various changes that take place in a woman, menstrual cycle, that she cannot do the role of multiple wives simultaneously. Whereas a man can do the role of multiple husbands simultaneously. And if a woman has more than one husband, then there are high chances of venereal diseases being transmitted and will be retransmitted to the man. Whereas if a man has more than one wife, there are very less chances of these diseases being transmitted. So even scientifically, it is not a problem for a man to have more than one wife. But it is problematic for a woman to have more than one husband. The 7th misconception is that why does Islam subjugate the woman by keeping her behind the veil, by keeping her behind the hijab? Before I discuss the real reason, let's look at the status of women in the past civilizations. If you look at the history of the Babylonian civilization, women were ill-treated. And if a man committed murder, his wife was put to death. If you look at the history of the Greek civilization, women were an object of sex and pleasure. And they believed in an evil woman by the name of Pandora, who was the cause of all evil.